Every February, I fly out to see my sister in Nevada. Marilyn also enjoys hiking, so we try to fit in as many hikes as we can. She doesn't do as much hiking as I do, so we usually do easy to moderate difficulty hikes. This time she took me by surprise when she picked a trail that was rated hard, the Gold Strike Springs Hot Spring Trail. I read that there were parts where you had to hold onto a rope as you climbed. Nevertheless, she really wanted to try it as it had been on her bucket list for quite some time. So we set off on a Monday morning since it was less likely to be busy on a weekday. The first few miles were flat, walking through a canyon on rocky sand. It was easy to think that this hike would be smooth sailing all the way to the hot springs. Little did we know the hazards that lay up ahead. I knew this would be a hard hike, but I never imagined that it would be harder than anything I've ever done. I've done knife edge, I've hiked in the White Mountains, I've hiked up slick, icy boulders, I've climbed down ropes and ladders on the long trail. Nothing prepared me for this.
Oh my god. I don't see this ending well. Almost there.
Climbing down the ropes on the slick rocks was challenging but manageable. However, the more ropes we had to climb down, the more we started to worry about going back. The trail was an out and back, meaning you climb down into the hot springs, but then you have to turn around and climb all the way back up. When we made it to the hot springs, we only spent about a half an hour in there, eating our lunch while we soaked before we decided to continue on. The trail ended at the Colorado River. It was mid-afternoon when we started back. Daylight savings hadn't happened yet, so it would be getting dark around 5:30. Neither of us had brought headlamps, so we knew we were racing against the clock, and we had an uphill hike ahead of us. I had already run out of battery in the 360 camera, but I needed all of my focus for the hike back. It was a grueling uphill. In the places where there were ropes, they hardly helped, as the rocks were often too slick to get a foot grip on, so you fell anyway. There was one spot where we were stuck for at least 20 minutes because we couldn't get any footing on the rock. I ended up finding a spot to go around it, and I tried using my towel as a rope to try to pull Marilyn up, but her feet just kept slipping. She tried to go the way I went, and she ended up falling off a cliff and landing on her side. I was afraid I would need to call 911, but she ended up being okay and kept going. She would just have a bad bruise later. By the time we made it out of the tough parts, both our legs were fried from pulling ourselves up rocks, and we still had several miles of gradual uphill through the desert to get back to the car. All told, this hike was a little over 10 miles, and it took us 6 hours. There were spots on this hike that were more technical than knife edge, without as far of a drop if you messed up. Still, the slickness of the rocks made it much more difficult to get any kind of footing, and put you at greater risk of injury from falling or possibly hitting your head on a rock. It was a true test of endurance, strength, and cognition. I don't think I would do it again. As we made it back to the car, a little before sunset, we saw people just setting out on this hike. Good luck!